Hello, everybody. This is Dr. J of Chapter 1 Practicing Entrepreneurship. In this chapter, we're going to talk about the entrepreneurship methods and what is entrepreneurship, right? We hear this word entrepreneurship. It's become famous more and more and more as we continue this journey through entrepreneurship. And of course, this is the first chapter, part of the practice, entrepreneurship practice, and the mindset of entrepreneurship. And so, one of the things about the entrepreneurship methods, right? It's not just about walking and talking about it, right? You got to think, act, identify, and approach problems as an entrepreneur. And that's one of the things about entrepreneurship. It's not about what you see on social media, this whole hustle culture, it's all about giving orders. It's more than that, right? And entrepreneurship has a variety of definitions in the way of defining itself. Entrepreneurship, it has a vehicle for developing a set of skills, right? Um, and of course, its methods, and we're going to talk about those. Entrepreneurship requires action and practice. Again, we just mentioned in the previous slide, and it's a way of thinking, acting, and being, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you always are. It's really hard to turn off that entrepreneurial mindset, that entrepreneurship embodiment, right? The pursuits of entrepreneurs have affected every spread of the way we live. It affected our lives, right? You think about some of the greatest entrepreneurs that we know, and the ones that are not mainstream too, right? But the mainstream that we know, like the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Bill Gates, um, those type of individuals that affected, impacted our lives in some way, like Henry Ford. They have affected and impacted of the way we live. Like Steve Jobs, like look how Steve Jobs impacted music by giving us the iPod and then Apple Music. Um, Look at what Bill Gates did with computers, right? Look at what Mark Zuckerberg did with social media and Facebook, right? If it wasn't really necessary for the mindset and the thinking of Facebook, of the way Mark Zuckerberg saw it, perhaps other social media outlets that later came on, like Twitter, then of course Instagram and Snapchat and all that, it wouldn't come into fruition, right? And of course, it creates new opportunities for economic progress. Um, of course, there's always turbulence going on, but through turbulence, it creates opportunities. Just look back at the 2008 financial crisis in the United States. A lot of people lost their jobs, lost a lot of their homes. But look what came out of it. One thing came out of it was money saving apps and money saving sites like Groupon, right? Groupon came from the financial crisis of 2008. And then of course we look at the 2020 COVID pandemic. Other businesses started to develop, especially in the medical field with the COVID shot and such. So through turbulence times, don't entrepreneurs take advantage of situations. Good times or bad times, even in bad times, people will see through all the turbulence. There's an opportunity for a market to open up. Some close, some open. That's just the way it goes in the entrepreneurship world. Um, Entrepreneurship is different from what you think. We always look at the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Steve Jobs, and the Bill Gates, and others as as emulate them, right? I remember when I was teaching young kids, eighth graders, entrepreneurship. They said, "Well, Bill Gates dropped out of college and became a billionaire, so can I." You know, and I think that there has been other individuals who've dropped out of college and made their wealth, but that doesn't happen all the time, right? Bill Gates is one person in a generation who can do such things. Not that many people that can do something like Bill Gates or like Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg also dropped out of college, but for every one Mark Zuckerberg, there's 100,000 others that have failed and not reached the capacity that Mark Zuckerberg has at the moment, right? And I think the media images entrepreneurs as overnight successes, and that's not true. A lot of entrepreneurs have failed many times before they became a quote unquote overnight sensation and a success, right? So you can think of other entrepreneurs like Elon Musk, for example, right? He's at the current moment of this recording, he's pretty well-known entrepreneur, whether you hate him or love him. But it took him a while to get to the level he's at. It just wasn't he started first business and all of a sudden he's the most powerful, richest person out there. It takes some time, right? There are people to look for inspiration, but again, not you can't always identify with those individuals. And again, there is no such thing as overnight success, right? It takes a lot of hard work, and it may take many, 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 many years, even decades, to reach pinnacle success. Debunking the myths, right? They're analyzing a few truths, separating truths from fiction. Um, Again, it could be difficult. A lot of people think that entrepreneur is this cool, sexy thing. It's very hard work. It's very grueling. Sometimes some people who venture into it just don't succeed. And of course, it's not for everyone. Um, so just debunking some myths about entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship is not reserved for startups, right? A lot of the myths is like, if you're gonna get entrepreneurship, you have to be a startup. No, you don't, right? You don't have to go and create the next app. You can start your own store or something and start from there. Entrepreneurs don't have to have a special set of personality traits. There's this myth that entrepreneurs are born, right? There's no scientific evidence to prove that point. There isn't. A lot of entrepreneurs have, were gone into a situation where maybe they were laid off or they found an opportunity and had to take it with and became entrepreneurs. Um, and of course, entrepreneurs are everywhere, right? They're from corporations to franchises to for-profit and nonprofit and family enterprises. Um, again, there is no special trait that goes with it. And so again, some people just have that tenacity to see things that others don't. Um, Entrepreneurship can be taught. Yes, it can be taught, but again, things in entrepreneurship, in this book, you can learn all you can about entrepreneurship, but at the end of the day, you have to go and apply it in the real world and see what happens. It can be taught, but it doesn't mean you're going to be successful, right? After reading this textbook and after going through the lectures, there's no guarantee that you're going to be a successful entrepreneur. Only your work ethic, how you time, how you get into the market, the timing of the market, the if the market is ready for the product or service that you're selling. A lot of things go into factors whether or not you're going to be successful in entrepreneurship. But of course, it's a way that you can learn and you can practice, but it may not make you successful. It's like if you practice basketball, if you put in your 10,000 hours in basketball, you may be good at it, but doesn't mean you're going to make the NBA, right? Same thing with entrepreneurship. Just because you learn it and you practice it doesn't automatically mean you're going to be the next billionaire. Um, Another one, right? Entrepreneurs are not extreme risk takers. They are absolutely not risk taker. They're risk adverse. They actually calculate the risk, right? Entrepreneurs think about it, and they really think about whether or not they're going to take the risk. They collaborate more than they compete. A lot of times we think, if you ever seen the movie The Founder, the Ray Kroc movie, who built McDonald's. He didn't start McDonald's. He just went with the McDonald's brothers and he built McDonald's what it is today. You don't have to be that cutthroat with your competition. A lot of times entrepreneurs actually collaborate. Of course, it's going to be healthy competition, but they collaborate. Entrepreneurs act more than they plan, right? They act. You can only plan so much. And entrepreneurship is a life skill that's going to take you. Once you get that entrepreneurship bug, it's gonna follow you everywhere. Um, One of the things about there is such thing as corporate entrepreneurship, and sometimes it's another word for intrapreneur or entrepreneurship. a lot of actually major corporations have, R&D labs, research and development labs, or they may call it something different, but in essence, it's R&D or research and development. Believe it or not, corporations like Dunkin' Donuts, um, have R&D labs, and they have this, innovating new products, processes for it, and there's also other corporations that have this, McDonald's and such, that have this sort of corporate entrepreneurship, this research and development type innovation in their company. Individuals work in it for it, um, just to enhance the company. A lot of people come up with great ideas, but they rather just do it in house because another thing with being an entrepreneur is a lot of hard work, and we'll talk more about that throughout the chapter, throughout the lectures. But just some people just see opportunities within their workplace, and then they help develop and create, again, new products, ventures, and processes. um, the entrepreneurship inside consists of employees who think and act entrepreneurially. Again, there are people within companies who think like entrepreneurs, like they're entrepreneurs. It's entrepreneurial mindset, which we'll get to a later chapter. Just thinking like an entrepreneur and seeing opportunities to help the company grow, and that's okay. You don't. One thing about entrepreneurs or thinking like one, you don't necessarily have to go and start your own venture. You can do it within your own company. Hopefully, you can negotiate with your company, like, hey, listen, I brought this product into service. Maybe I get a royalty or something else or a promotion, right? But of course, that's something different. Franchising, right? Some people, when it comes to type of entrepreneurship, you can purchase a franchise or get into a franchise. Again, franchising, it's a license purchased by an individual entrepreneur for an existing business, allowing them to trade under the name of that business. A franchise is the type of license purchased by an entrepreneur, so a franchisee from an existing business. So, for example, like McDonald's, the majority of these McDonald's that you see are have a franchisee, an individual, an entrepreneur who bought into the McDonald's, and McDonald's, the corporation, gives them the license to operate a business under their name with their products. And a lot of individuals get into that. It's like they have that entrepreneurship spirit and they don't want to start from scratch, so they buy into a franchise. And sometimes it's a great opportunity for some, and others, there are some drawbacks from being a franchisee. A lot of things that you want to do, maybe you can't do because you have to follow the franchise rules. Um, Again, perhaps some individuals actually buy small businesses and build it bigger. For example, there's Chris Croston of Flow Dog. It's a canine aquatic and rehabilitation center outside of Boston. He bought the business in 2009 and changed the name, but subdued a loyal customer base and pool equipment, and her business grew by 20% each year. So there are individuals who can see a current small business, buy it out, buy the owner, and grow it to bigger things. Social entrepreneurship has become a global movement as of late. Social entrepreneurship has the same mindset as entrepreneurship. The only difference is they're looking to impact the world. Um, in a much they're not so focused about making a financial impact. They're more focused on making a social impact in the world, whether that's education, whether that's the environment. um, of course, that's what it really focuses on, right? They have to make money in a sense to operate the business, but again, it's not the point of a social entrepreneurship is not to make as much money, is to make as much social impact across the world. And so that's what necessarily what this social entrepreneurship is. Family enterprising, family enterprise, of course, family business. Family-owned businesses are hugely important to the U.S. economy. They account for about 60% of employment, 70% of new jobs, and 65% of total wages. And of course, family businesses are more stable, seem to be more stable. Actually, Walmart, in a sense, is a family enterprise. The Walton family owns. They they basically own they have a tight knit on that. The Ford company, right? Ford family owned that. And so that's a big one. The auto company Volkswagen in Germany, and so those are types of family businesses that sometimes you didn't think about that, but they are family enterprises. Um, Serial entrepreneurs. If you ever heard the word serial entrepreneurs, those are people who have started several businesses. They sell them or they close them and they start a new one. Again, they look for the next big things and they implement their diverse range of ideas. So entrepreneurship again is a method, not a process. It's a systematic way of approaching a task, um, from entrepreneurship to business success. Um, and so again, the entrepreneurship process, um, the 10-step process is ineffective in new venture. Um, Entrepreneurship is not a linear process. There is no linear way. Thing about entrepreneurship is that there is no straight line, right? Just because you follow the rules or the methods of entrepreneurship does not mean you're going to be successful. You're going to have to pivot more than you would think so, right? If you're in corporate America, right, there's a pretty linear straight line as to if you want to be successful in corporate America, there's a straight line you have to follow and do things. In entrepreneurship, if you want to be successful, you're gonna have to pivot more than you go on a straight line in order to be successful. And the thing about it is that again, it doesn't, when you launch your own venture, your own startup, it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. More than likely than not, you're going to fail. A lot of startups fail within the first 5 years for a variety of reasons, whether it's the market timing because they just got into at the wrong time, the product or service, there was not enough big of a market for them to get into. The team that they had probably wasn't good enough to succeed, for the startup to succeed. That happens a lot too. People have if you have the wrong team, you're more likely, your startup is going to fail. Or just things happen, right? Like for example, the 2020 COVID crisis shut down a lot of businesses or startups that didn't go because it wasn't the right timing and they closed. Um, this again, there's assumptions underlying the entrepreneurship method. It applies to novices and experts, right? It's inclusive. Um, Again, it works for any organization at any stage of the business. It requires continuous practice, and there's an unpredictable environment. In entrepreneurship, um, uh, it has to deal more with uncertainty. We are never sure of where the markets are gonna go, right? Whether one year there's going to be turbulence in the market, whether a health crisis is going to affect or impact the business. There's never there's never a singular line. It's always an unpredictable environment. That's why a lot of people don't thrive in entrepreneurship is because they can't deal with the uncertainty, the unpredictability. A lot of people more than likely like to predict and like to know and like having a guarantee of a paycheck at the end of the day. Entrepreneurship is not always going to guarantee that, and you have to work in those unpredictable environments. Are you going to be able to succeed? Um, Method versus process, right? Entrepreneurship is a method, not a process. It's a set of practices. It's about creativity, about iteration, right? As a process, again, it's a method of thinking and doing. You have to invest in the learning. I think a lot of times people don't invest enough time in learning, and as an entrepreneurship, you have to invest in that time in learning because the moment you fail to lose, I mean, the moment you fail to learn is going to impact your business because if you're not learning about what's going on in your environment, in your business, and what's going on, you're more likely going to fail. Um, so you can't look at it as a process. There's no set guidebook for it. So again, you have to look at it as a method, and not a process. The method involves creating the future, not predicting it. Entrepreneurship no longer about growing a venture using a step-by-step process. Again, it's an ongoing method that's going to change, right? Well, may work one year, may not work the next. Um, Managerial versus entrepreneurial thinking, right? Managers lead corporations, but entrepreneurs lead startups. Managers in corporations, you know, they have a mindset of it has to be this, right? They have a playbook or a set of rules or a set of management guidelines that they follow that it has to be followed in order to be successful. Um, Entrepreneurs they don't really there is no guideline, there is no straight things. That's why some entrepreneurs are great at starting the businesses and they hire other people to manage it because they can't manage the folks or they don't know how to do so. Um, and so again, if you're throwing like for example, and the book gives it to you, or there's a good example of it. A dinner party, a dinner party is a great way to tell the difference between an entrepreneur and managerial thinking, right? If you're throwing a dinner party for a group of friends, you might draw up a menu, buy the ingredients, and cook the meal according to the set of instructions in the cookbook. And of course, you're approaching the dinner party as a manager, right? In contrast, an entrepreneur is going to tell the 10 people, hey, just, show up and, not, without, tell the person to bring one ingredient without telling them that what to bring. And 10 people show up with 10 different ingredients. And then at the kitchen, you there decide as a group how you're going to put this together. Again, creating something without a concrete set of instructions. That's the best way to tell the difference between a manager leading a corporation and an entrepreneur leading a startup. The manager is going to tell you what to bring, um, and here's the menu, or here's the menu, and this is what you're going to order. And the entrepreneur is like, hey, you bring this, you bring that, let's come together and see what happens. Um, Again, managerial, they're big planning, entrepreneurial small actions. Um, Managers think like there's going to be an expected return. Entrepreneurs acceptable loss. Competitive and entrepreneurs are more collaborative, as managerial think is more competitive. An entrepreneurial managerial thinking is an action, right? Making a start in a restaurant business. Um, to start an Indian restaurant in your hometown, you could begin by assessing the market through surveys and focus groups to narrow to who's going to like you know your your business. Um, and of course, you have to really look at who's going to want to invest in it. To implement the entrepreneurial approach, you can start by doing just enough research to convince restaurants to become a strategic partner, persuade them a local business or to invest in your restaurant. Um, Again, so there's different ways of approaching it instead of just, the manager is going to do all the research, and of course, the entrepreneur is just going to go ask and do it, and not got too much thought into it. Um, Means embracing and confronting uncertainty. Again, in entrepreneurship, you're going to confront uncertainty. If you're not comfortable with uncertainty, entrepreneurship may not be the thing for you. Now, it doesn't mean you can't think like an entrepreneur. It doesn't mean you can't study it and learn from it. But perhaps if you are not comfortable with uncertainty, maybe you shouldn't launch your own business venture. And of course, the methods can be learned and repeated. So again, the practice, you're gonna have to experiment. You have to, create, right? The eight components of the practice of entrepreneurship, right? Identify your desired impact on the world. Like, what is it that you want to impact on the world? And that's another difference between entrepreneurs, right? They want to impact the world. How is my idea, what I want to put out there, going to impact the world? Like, Mark Zuckerberg really wants to impact the world through this social media platform that he had called Facebook. And you can best believe Facebook made a huge impact on the world. Um, Start with means at hand. Describe your idea today and calculate affordable loss. And take small actions. You have to think about it, but just take small actions. If you're thinking about entrepreneurship, what's your idea? What is it? And take more small actions. Set up a website. Talk about it with people. Put up a service out there and see what happens, right? Just take those small actions. Um, Network and enroll with others in your journey, right? There's bound to be groups out there in your area or and online networking. Build on what you learn. Continue with practicing, right? That's the best way for in entrepreneurship. Um, as I mentioned, entrepreneurship, and we're going to talk about this later on, it's a mindset and a practice, right? It's both those things. You have to deliver, carry out, and practice it. Um, and of course, shapes the brain. Engaging in deliberate practice shapes the brain, improves performance. Um, and so, again, engaging in deliberate practice even more worthwhile when you consider the effect on the brain. Again, regular practice without focused effort only reinforces mindless automatic habits. So again, regular practice without focused effort, consistent feedback and guidance only reinforces mindless automatic habits. So you have to get that feedback. Um, you have to, practice. And you have to get out that routine of automatic habits, right? So regular practice without focused effort only reinforces again automatic habits. You don't want to do that in entrepreneurship. Um, Deliberate practice in entrepreneurs, sustained efforts have cognitive benefits. Entrepreneurs who engage in deliberate practice benefit more. Again, those entrepreneurs who engage in deliberate practice are better in storing new information and retrieving it when they need to, which again helps them plan, adapt, and make decisions quickly in changing situations. That's really important to know. Entrepreneurs who engage in deliberate practice and receive new information and store it, later on they're going to use it to plan, adapt, and make decisions in quick changing situations. Again, in those uncomfortable situations, unpredictable situations, you're going to have to quickly plan and adapt and make a decision. Um, and again, feedback is also an important task. You have to get that feedback to see where you're going. Um, And so the last thing here, how is this book going to help you? Oops, this one last one. Practice entrepreneurship. The world is in need of entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurship is all around us. And so throughout this book and these lectures, we're going to look more into the mindset and such, and how to go about entrepreneurship and launching that venture that you may have in your head, and you just need to know how to go about and doing it. And that is wraps up chapter 1.